And ladies and gentlemen, if you're just joining us, this is Admiral Radish, the PR director for CAPS and the launch director for the CASA Space Agency. It's our great pleasure to welcome you here tonight on this, the 30th of July, approximately 2246 UTC. We're here looking at the first ever Venus probe on the launch pad, preparing for launch here in just under 30 minutes. This probe contains both an orbiter and an atmospheric probe, which will be attempting to land on the surface of Venus. An important note for both agencies, this will be the very first probe which, instead of going away from the center of the solar system, will be heading towards it for its actual arrival in just a few months' time. This will be our shortest mission documented to date that will be leaving the sphere of influence of Earth. We've, of course, had a few notable instances over the course of the past few months where we have had shorter missions, regolith missions included. Now, for those of you who are just joining us, we are looking at the Viridian 1 probe. This is the first ever probe going towards the inner portion of our solar system. On board includes an orbiter portion and a lander portion. The orbiter portion including ScanSat technology that will attempt to get altimetry scans of the surface of Venus, whereas there is a multitude of science objectives on the lander portion. Transit approximately 130 days. Which puts it arriving in and around the sphere of influence of Venus in, let's see, approximately December of this year. This will, of course, be the shortest interplanetary mission that we have launched so far in our server. One of the key facets of this mission is that the parts we will be launching today include the very first drop-forged, pressure-resistant parts, tested up to 9,300 kilopascals. Those were made by our recent submarine-hearted engineer, Etwan Kurdlu, of the SPES agency. Of course, a moment to acknowledge the great appreciation and collaboration between SPES and CASA who have allowed us very graciously at CASA to use those drop forge parts in the creation of a yet-to-be-announced mission. That will be potentially the first powered aerodynamic flight on another planet. So now inside 25 minutes to launch, we are waiting here for the very last countdown notes to come through. Beautiful skies, tracking absolutely no issues. This launch coming out of Japan, where we are still in the morning. It's now 22:51:30 UTC, and we are inside 24 minutes to launch. We'll be back here with more information on the mission in just a moment. Now inside 23 minutes to launch, T-minus 22:05. The Viridian 1 probe will be launching directly into an intercept with Venus through the use of 3 long-term maneuvers. The goal is to drop the lander stage at a fairly high altitude above the Venusian atmosphere, which will allow the orbiter portion to have a considerably better thrust to weight, much less payload on board, in order to maneuver itself into the optimal position, while the lander portion will attempt the first ever entry into the atmosphere of another planet. Given the current positioning on the mission calendar, it looks as though this will be the first mission to enter the atmosphere of another planet. Currently targeting a landing in the Ishtar region, in the Ishtar Terra of the northern portion of Venus, near the North Pole, covering a good portion of the northern hemisphere, using the higher altitudes to take advantage of the lower pressures and therefore hopefully prolong and extend the overall mission duration. A couple notable items aboard include cameras, hinges, a few rotors, and various scientific experiments, as well as the first attempt to use radiators to cool and disperse surface heating, and the first use of fuel cells on another planet. Now, the main purpose and the main goal of this mission is, of course, not just to understand the planet Venus, but also to understand the botany of the greenhouse planet. CASA and SPES scientists, through a joint CAPS program, have been doing intense botanical research on the greenhouse planet to understand the vast variety of life, the diversity of plants that is sure to exist there. After the unfortunate closing of the Lunar Cheesology division, we have been forced to pivot to new horizons and new sciences, thus resulting in the launching of the Venusian Botany division. It's well believed that upon approach to the Venusian atmosphere, we should expect a, quote, pillowy, soft atmosphere, and a ground lush with plants and verdant with life. Of course, we do not want our scientists to get too far ahead of themselves, but many of them have been drawing idle sketches of what they think their favorite plant is going to look like from the surface of Venus. Now inside 20 minutes to launch, here shortly, we'll do one of our great pre-launch traditions, a quick chat with our launch director today, Grateful Deadbeat. Now inside 17 minutes to launch, approximately 16 and a half minutes, getting a nice view here of the Viridian 1 probe and the moon in the background there. This is not our first launch from Japan. We've done some infrastructure launches from various spaceports in Japan before, but this will be our first interplanetary launch from Japan. Once again, that launch time estimated at 23:15 UTC, occurring here in just about 17 minutes. Now preparing here for shortly for our chat with the launch director for today and the director of the SPES Space Agency, Grateful Deadbeat. If you're just joining us for the first time, I strongly recommend you check out the mission calendar and the live map at KerbalRealtime.com in order to get an understanding of the mission profile and the various ongoing operations in the server. No time warp, everything done in real time. KerbalRealtime.com. Now getting a good view here from the business end of the rocket. Approximately 6 engines here, which will be lifting our payload to orbit. One of the great benefits of the Staghorn booster, which is what we will be using today, is that it is a recoverable booster, and we will be using the LMP LunaMultiplayer portion of the server today in order to recover that booster, while Deadbeat continues piloting the probe towards Venus. The Staghorn 6 booster, named because of the 6 engines, also has the ability to shut down engines in pairs, allowing us to reduce the overall G-load on the craft and improve performance. And now as we're inside, 15 minutes to launch, approximately 14 minutes and 15 seconds It's my great pleasure to introduce the director of today's mission, Grateful Deadbeat. Deadbeat, thank you for joining us today.
And thank you for everybody for being here. This is an amazing day. We are making our first ever launch towards a planet inwards towards the solar system. Of course, this isn't technically our first trip towards the sun, because we do have the Mars DSN craft, which is currently moving towards the sun before its major maneuver in about 80 days.
Making a clever use of some O-Birth effect there. And some gravitational pull in order to adjust its course. We're going to Venus. What is the inspiration there? I know a lot of people have mentioned that it has been just a dizzy foray of interplanetary launches in a row. Why is that?
Why is that?
Now, we are actually in a very rare lineup of our launch windows. First, we did have Vesta, which we sent the Dahlia lander and Lisianthus orbiter to. Now we are going to Venus. Next week, it's going to be Uranus. And the week after that, we are sending out our Mercury probe. So this is actually a time right now where we just are very lucky in the year of 2026 to have these events line up in roughly 7 days apart, each on a Wednesday. And we have made this opportunity to be able to, used this opportunity to be able to launch quite a few interplanetary craft throughout the system, which will take a varying degree of times between when they will all arrive, but overall, this is the right time to be doing it. And this is our very first transfer window to Venus. The next one will be occurring in February 2028. So this is our short little window right here to get our first ever short launch to Venus. It's only 130-day, possibly even less, maybe a little more. That's our current estimate, looking at the tests and the Delta V. But that will, without a doubt, be our shortest interplanetary mission even possible.
So, looking at the profile of the mission, what was behind the design of the orbiter and the probe in this case?
So the orbiter was definitely designed first. The Venus Reconnaissance Orbiter, or VRO, as you might hear us refer to it, is a very simple camera device with a radio altimeter dish, which will be scanning the surface and giving us a look further underneath the clouds at the actual terrain of Venus. Beyond that, we then created the Viridian 1 lander. And the Viridian is going to be a very high-pressure capable craft, and it has a limited amount of tests on it. It does have, what I'm most excited to see, is a single solar panel that will be showing us just how much sunlight penetrates through those clouds. And it might not be any, it might be a very minute amount, but otherwise that is going to be a very interesting reading that we will be getting in less than 130 days.
So 130 days, we're going towards the sun. That also means that for the first time, we will be accelerating almost the entire way towards our destination. What is the plan to handle that?
Absolutely. This craft and its kick stage, we are potentially referring to it as the Thumper kick stage. We're starting to give these some fun little nicknames, but it has an excessive amount of Delta V. Once we drop off the lander, once we are done with our second maneuver to make it to Venus, we are going to drop off the lander just as we enter the sphere of influence of Venus. And what this is going to do is allow the lander itself, with its heat shield and fairing system, to slow itself down. It does have its own thrusters and its own fuel reserves, and that will then position itself to be able to land in the Ishtar Terra in the northwest quadrant of Venus itself. The other half will then be greatly lightened on its load, and then have far more Delta V to actually slow itself down and prepare for positioning the VRO to actually begin its mission. And the VRO does have its own fuel reserves as well, so it will be able to move inclination, change its altitude. When we're all done with scanning the surface, we might put it up higher so we can get a really nice view of the planet for our 24/7 stream. But overall, there is some really good stuff on it that's going to allow it to slow way the heck down before.
Amazing, amazing stuff. Staghorn booster, kick stage, 2 different components on board. The scientists are begging to know, what plant are you most looking forward to on the surface of Venus, Mr. Botanist?
Okay, so we all do know that Venus is the greenhouse planet. It has an absolute incredible greenhouse effect. Some may call it runaway. I say it's a well-honed greenhouse effect. Just for that idea alone, we know that the plants down there on the surface are probably what I would consider to be megaflora. I would think similar to the Lyperides of the Devonian age, these large monocotyledon structures of basically what would be palm trees, or maybe just megafauna forms of grass. Megaflora, my bet. These, yeah, and they would be incredible. The seed structures, the flowers, the absolute incredible spores or pollens that float through the air, the beautiful angiosperms. We just can't wait to get a good glimpse at all of it.
Now, as we prepare here for launch in just about 7 minutes, do you have any last words for anyone tuning in at home as they prepare to launch maybe their first ever real-time mission?
Well, I'd say thank you for joining us. We do this somewhat fairly often. We love to make these huge, long missions a good stream, a good event to pay attention to. Eventually, there might be a video. We might even wait to cut a video before, or we might even wait till after we arrive and have some good footage to put this all together. 130 days. This is a
quick one.
We're still waiting for Kronos to make it to Pluto.
And when Kronos gets there, it will be a tremendous day for us all.
Yeah. So, thank you for joining us. We do special things in the Discord sometimes. We accept stickers for certain missions. Our Uranus probe Blue Yonder, recently named, is going to be covered in stickers that were submitted to us by the taxpayers like you.
How many do we have at this point?
I think there is about 24. I have a handful that people DM'd me, so I have to compile them all.
Well, excellent. Deadbeat, thank you for joining us. Just a T-minus 6 minutes to launch. We appreciate it as always, and good luck. Good luck.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for everybody to be here, and we're going to do some staging checks real quick and then prep for the launch.
That, of course, was our traditional interview with Grateful Deadbeat, the launch director for today, who will be flying this mission into the correct inclination, where it will be transferring to a solar-bound orbit approximately in the vicinity of Venus. Now, T-minus 5 minutes and 15 seconds to launch, beginning the typical countdown checks, staging checks, map checks, as we see Deadbeat performing the final review of the rocket to confirm that everything is in the correct order for the first 30 to 60 minutes of launch. If you're just joining us, this is the Viridian 1 probe here on Kerbal Real-Time, which will be heading to Venus, approximately 130-day transit time. That means that we will be reviewing the re-entry of this probe, maybe even on live stream, in about 130 days. For those looking for a more precise estimate, that would be Monday, December 7th. Now inside, T-minus 4 minutes to launch. Getting some final views from around the pad as we prepare for Viridian 1 to leave the Earth for the last time. This probe having been designed specifically for this transfer window, which, as you heard from Deadbeat, will not be occurring again until 2028 with this level of efficiency. Similarly, the rare alignment of launch windows, we've launched to Venus, Mars, and we will launch again to Mars later this year, Uranus, Saturn, Pluto, Vesta, and Neptune. Alignment quite as unique as this one will not be occurring, at least within our lifetimes. So if you've been following along with us, congratulations on witnessing a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Interesting enough, this is the transfer window for this year. And currently, by our estimates, we are the only people in real time sending anything to Venus this year. Living or digital, no one is making quite as good a use of this transfer window this year. On board now, T-minus 2 minutes and 34 seconds. On top of this rocket here, the Staghorn 6 booster below, fully recoverable. Currently, the recovery team's getting in position to follow along with the launch and recover that booster. Kick stage in the middle, which will carry the VRO and the Viridian 1 probe. Onward towards Venus. Those two will separate from each other high above the atmosphere of Venus, where the VRO will maneuver into its proper position while the Viridian 1 lander proceeds for entry and interface into the atmosphere. We see that the lights have turned green on the launch pad, and that means that we are go for launch. I repeat, we are go for launch. T-minus 1 minute and 40 seconds as we now prepare for Viridian 1 to leave Earth. Launching from Japan, the approximate launch down time estimated at 23:15 on the dot. Now counting down towards that. One of the things to note is that, as is tradition, we will be doing a question and answer session about this mission, other missions, the server in general here. As we do the orbital coast and orbital drift phase of this mission. So please, if you have any questions at all, put them in the chat now, put them in the Discord server. We will be filtering through those questions as we go through the drift phase, myself and Deadbeat live. Now, T-minus 45 seconds. We'll be doing the final countdown as we prepare for launch. Once again, I am Admiral Radish, the director for CASA and the PR director for CAPS. Your pilot today will be Grateful Deadbeat, who has designed the mission and will be flying the mission. He is the director for SPES, the participating agency in today's mission. Now T-minus 18 seconds. Final countdown starting. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And ignition. We have ignition of the Staghorn 6 booster carrying VRO and Viridian 1 towards Venus. Off they go into the atmosphere, carrying the first interplanetary mission we have to land on another planet. Currently T plus 22 seconds and climbing. You can see the maneuvering beginning. Gravity turn maneuver starting. And here we see the Staghorn 6 booster Viridian 1 on board, heading away from the coast of Japan. Now, T plus 1 minute. Everything looking nominal so far. Staghorn passing 10 kilometers and approaching supersonic. Tracking no issues right now so far. You can see Deadbeat deftly maneuvering various windows and click-through blockers. Currently pivoting at that gravity turn. Watching the loads on the Staghorn booster. But overall, all is well. Recovery teams are in position to take control of and recover that booster when it is time. Not tracking any items right now. All green across the board. Weather is perfect. And we have one probe on its way to space, launching out of Japan into the morning sun. We've seen the first pair of engines now shut down. Everything looking good so far. Once again, the Staghorn 6 booster can shut down all 6 of its engine in offset pairs in order to reduce load on the vehicle, improve efficiency, increase burn time, and various other positive effects on the overall mission performance, especially with crew aboard. You can see that gravity turn almost complete, now beginning the lateral burn up to orbital velocity. Force on the vehicle looking good, and we're getting reports of all nominal from mission control. We'll be continuing to watch, throttle down, and eventually main engine cut off. Waiting for, that's a great view there. You can see right there, getting the beautiful view of the engines burning. Of the horizon there. Only 2 engines left and just waiting now for main engine cutoff. 4,500 meters per second. Should see the map view there on the screen for a second. Apoapsis continuing to climb, but now just about to exit the atmosphere for the Staghorn booster. Waiting for confirmation from the recovery team. Once they have positive control, we can see engines are off. A little bit of celebration there as we prepare now for stage separation. And we have positive stage separation there. All those fairings falling away. Currently waiting on positive control of the booster. And we have a report from Mission Control. We do have affirmative positive control on the booster. Currently working to get it into re-entry position. Hopefully get some picture-in-picture views for you here in just a second. Track, all looking good so far. T plus 5 minutes. No issues so far. Everything looking good on board the booster, which is approaching its apoapsis. Final apoapsis 160766 for the booster. And now beginning its descent back into the atmosphere. confirm we are getting live picture-in-picture views now. We can see the Staghorn booster there, RCS firing, there in the corner picture, as well as the view from the live mission, currently accelerating. VRO on board, Viridian 1 on board. All looking good so far. The feedback from mission control, no issues on either front right now. Next major item we're waiting for, re-entry of that booster. Not tracking any issues on either front right now, while we wait for the final call out for re-entry. The booster is now passing through approximately 100 kilometers and still not tracking any issues. Should see re-entry heating begin here in just a moment. There we go, just for a second. We'll swap those views really quick. Now we're getting a live view of the Staghorn booster currently re-entering after launching from Japan. Still have a picture-in-picture view of the probe there in the corner, continuing to maneuver. Now waiting for the booster to finish its descent and pitch over. We should see retraction of the air brakes and finally deploy of the parachutes. Everything looking great for the booster so far as we approach T plus 10 minutes. Booster now passing through 17.5 kilometers, continuing to descend. Currently not tracking any issues on the descent. Everything continuing to look good. And the Viridian 1 probe and the Venus Reconnaissance Orbiter all continuing to accelerate towards orbit. And the call out from mission control, we can confirm a nominal orbit. That is a nominal orbit for the VRO and Viridian 1 as we prepare now for the coast phase, as well as the simultaneous splashdown and recovery of the Staghorn booster. Each recovered Staghorn booster can return in excess of 400,000 funds, so it is a considerable focus of both agencies to recover and reuse these boosters whenever possible, as well as to skillfully and deftly manage your taxpayer funding. In fact, it is your taxpayer funding that drives these missions, and nothing we do would be possible without taxpayers like you. Thank you. From KerbalRealtime. Now we should see air brake retraction and parachute deployment any second. And there we see those parachutes going out. Now we're just waiting for the final deployment of those main chutes as the booster tips over. And excellent stuff. We have good main chutes on the booster as we now wait for the final splashdown confirmation. Estimated splashdown time about 50 seconds. Once again, a reminder that here shortly we'll do a short question and answer session as we go through the drift phase, talk about any of the various questions you may have about the server, the Viridian 1 mission, the VRO, any of the other ongoing projects or missions. You can see a list of those at KerbalRealtime.com, as well as any of the current projects by either of the space agencies. Certainly more than willing to answer those. Just waiting here now. Final splashdown. And there we go. A nice soft landing in the ocean. Splashdown, and now preparing for recovery here. The Staghorn 6 booster. Another successful mission. So if you've been following along this far, thank you very much for being here. This marks the first part of the mission, launch so far. A rousing success by all accounts, not tracking any issues on the booster, now floating in the ocean. As we look back at the full map view here, T plus 14 minutes, a booster safely in the water, a probe and orbiter safely here in a low Earth orbit, and now preparing for its maneuver here shortly. By all accounts, a great success so far, but we will not count the book as written just yet. There is still plenty of work to do here today in order to get this probe outbound from Earth's sphere of influence. You have been watching Kerbal Real Time. We'll have more mission coverage here for you live in just a moment. So the current estimate, waiting on that final recovery estimate from the Staghorn booster, we can confirm that we have teams on site in order to recover that booster. We're looking at the live map view now as we prepare the maneuvers for the probe, that probe in low Earth orbit and coasting right now as we prepare for the question and answer session. We'll be doing that here momentarily. As we currently wait for Deadbeat to finish the final maneuver planning. Remember, this is the most detailed portion of the mission, as we have to prepare not just the current maneuver, but the timing of future maneuvers. As we are doing things in real time, we have to prepare simultaneously for which dates things are going to occur on in the future. might I recommend not scheduling your first moon landing recovery and splashdown time for the night of July 4th. While we wait for everything to be finalized, just an easy question, just right off the top. It says 120 days to reach apoapsis. So yeah, we're not going to leave the stream up for 3 to 5 months. If you want to see the orbiter at any point during its journey, the probe, we have cameras on board. We run a live Twitch stream over Twitch KerbalRealtime. You can see it there, and you'll have plenty of fun time seeing the probe when it pops up every couple of hours as part of the live view. Most of the orbiter is going to be remaining in permanent orbit. There is a portion of the vessel that will be landing for this one. So at least for a short while, our hope is we will get not just the orbiter views in the Twitch live stream. So that will be 24/7. We're planning until at least 2030. So, but beyond that, we're hoping for at least a little while. We will get surface views from Venus as well. Some of the notable locations we currently have cameras right now. On the surface of the Royd Beaker, also known as asteroid PCP-666, Royd Beaker, which has a permanent probe affixed to it, including a camera. We have cameras on board our probes outbound to Pluto, going to be Uranus, Neptune, Saturn, Mars, as well as cameras on the moon and in low lunar orbit. Various geosynchronous cameras, including a polar camera and an outbound camera towards Vesta. So all of those feeds are regularly put together, shown on our Twitch live stream. It cycles through them using a custom developed mod that I created, also known as Fast Vessel Changer. I recommend you go download it. There will be a new version out tonight. So that leaves that we will still need to send outbound probes to Mercury, which does have an upcoming transfer window, as well as Jupiter, which has an upcoming transfer window as well. So we will have outbound probes, ideally here within the year, to all of the solar system bodies. We have a lot of catching up to do. Some of the previous notable probes, if we wanted to hit on them, USSR, of course, sent Venera and the Vega landers. There was the Pioneer Venus orbiter previously, as well as Magellan and Venus Express. We've sent the Mariner missions back in the 60s. And JAXA also sent a mission in 2010 to Venus. Notably, there have been considerably less missions launched to Mercury, as we said, one of the upcoming windows. The primary one being Messenger, launched by NASA back in 2004, as well as now the upcoming Bepi-Colombo mission. And that will, of course, be a great addition to the list of missions. There is one more, slightly escaping me. Mariner. I know one of the Mariner missions also went and did a flyby of Mercury, historically. So, those are the inner solar system planets. Plenty has been sent to the moon. Everyone here in the chat, I'll bet, could riff off a few missions which have gone to the moon. But Mars, famously, Ingenuity, Perseverance, Curiosity, Pathfinder, Opportunity, truly just some of the most iconic science missions of all time. So hopefully, I know Deadbeat and Spez has been hard at work on their design of the upcoming Mars rover. So it will be very exciting to see that come to fruition. We'll have to ask Deadbeat here when he gets on shortly if he knows which mission previously went to Vesta. Now at T plus 22 minutes, getting a great view of a low Earth orbit there. Shout out to Ballistic Fox. Shout out and the Soul Mod, as well as the Soul Mod, his work on Mirage and with Black Rack, Mirage and on Black Rack and Guitar Kitten, and very many great other people who have contributed to the current version we're running. Now at T plus 22 and a half minutes, I think it's time to begin our live question and answer session with the director of our launch today, Grateful Deadbeat. Deadbeat, thank you for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you, everyone, for watching. That was a just near picture-perfect launch. A couple small adjustments that had to be made, but other than that, we are on our way to loop around the Earth less than one time, just less than one orbit before we head out.
Excellent. Excellent work so far, and excellent work today. So far, the main items that we are currently focused on: booster recovery, successful. Initial launch into orbit, successful. It looks as though the VRO and the Viridian 1 are in good health. What is your takeaway from the launch so far? How are you feeling about the next few hours of maneuvering, and what's in store for the viewers?
So right now, I think our next milestone that's going to be something for the viewers will be sunset, that beautiful moment when the sun goes behind Earth. We will make sure to get a good shot of that. We do have our maneuver entirely made. It looks nice. We have the Delta V required to make all of this happen. And additionally, it seems that our inclination is just right on the money to where we needed it to be. This is our first interplanetary mission from Japan. We have used it for launching, I think, to the space station once or twice, but this is our first time leaving Earth entirely from Japan. So, nice little thing here. Maybe setting up a little sisterhood between the greenhouse planet and Japan, similar to how everybody knows there's an amazing relationship between Canada and the Red Planet.
Indeed, the love between Canada and Mars also almost can't be described. The relationship that they have between the two of them, like sister cities, but something greater and more poignant than that. Everything looked great during launch. No issues being tracked on any of the items. Currently coasting towards a series of fairly easy but robust maneuvers for a craft like this one. What is the current target? One sec, we have an appearance from Mission Control Cat. Thank you, Mission Control Cat.
We do love Mission Control Cat.
With an appearance from Mission Control Cat, what sort of science is on board the Viridian 1 now that we've had a moment to sit and review after the excitement of launch? What science are you most excited for on board?
Oh, what I'm most excited for is definitely those temperature readings that are going to tell us just how hot or cold the surface is that we have these absolute mega flora that are growing on the surface of Venus. Of course, we do know Venus is the greenhouse planet if you're just joining us, and we are expecting to find, if not some mosses, absolute mega flora that we believe is due to the runaway greenhouse effect, creating such an amazing greenhouse of the entire planet that the megaflora will be flourishing. So the main thing besides that I'm really looking forward to is just how much light is penetrating through the 2, maybe even 3 cloud layers around Venus. We do know that on Earth, photosynthesis does require direct sunlight to occur in not a small amount, so these plants must be finding some way to harness an immense amount of light at such a low light level itself. So we're thinking megaflora with absolutely giant leaves to catch as much light as possible will be there on the surface.
I was going to say
us.
that the CASA scientists, some of the botanists, have firmly leaned into the idea of not tall megaflora, but rather extremely wide megaflora, potentially tens of meters in diameter, in order to capture enough diffuse light to survive on the surface. But we are all very excited, of course, for the science that we will discover as part of Venusian botany. We're getting a great view here in low Earth orbit. I think it's time to acknowledge some of the other missions that have taken place. What are your thoughts on the recent recovery of Kaylee Keston as chief engineer?
Yes, Kaylee Keston, who was aboard Leo Crew Flight 2, and who stayed on board for 2 crew transfers, heading home on the Leo Crew 4 flight. She is officially the Kerbal with the longest tenure in space, and we do know that we will be sending her back into space at some point. She is currently favored for going on Regolith 3. I believe Regolith 3 is scheduled sometime in September right now. We are heading back to the moon in September to do our next landing. We will be bringing a myriad of scientific experiments. Anyone who watched knows that our very first moon landing was more geared towards the historic moment of making it happen and testing out the reusable surface lander that we sent.
Yeah, there was not much time left for pomp and circumstance in the first mission, certainly not. It was very much a prompt, get to the moon surface, prove that it can be done, and then prepare for future expeditions. It was nice to see that Kaylee Keston, after being trained and taught for so long aboard the collaborative space station, is willing to continue to go further and expand her bounds as part of SPES. Now, one question that the press is dying to know is, does Kaylee Keston have enough skill to fix the solar panel on the moon station?
Absolutely she does, and we do think right now she is our best current candidate. If not, Marcia Craigson may be making another return to the moon.
Excellent.
Marcia Craigson, of course, was a part of the Regolith 1 mission. She was part of the very first crew to fly around the moon, as well as the famous Kerbal who was indeed spaghettified during the Polyphemus 1 mission upon the surface of Royd Beaker PCP-666. She is entirely recovered. She is in high spirits. She is, as some would say, itching to get back into space. Almost a little aggressive. We have her in counseling. It's okay.
One thing to note also is that the spaghettification footage, for those who have not seen it, is currently redacted, but we are working on a Freedom of Information Act request to release that footage as soon as possible.
Yes, and indeed, along with the spaghettification, the entirety of the mission profile of Polyphemus 1, where we made our very first trip to touch a surface of a body that was not Earth.
And let everyone know, no one should ever try and say that we at SPES or CASA or CAPS are trying to suppress files, right? We would not do that. There's no file suppression going on here.
Absolutely not, no.
So, just to clarify. So we're not hiding any files of any sort. Now getting a look here of the rocket itself. So you want to talk about this probe here as it's laid out now that people can see it on the rocket, on the kick stage itself.
Absolutely. So here we're taking a look at the thumper kick stage. Once this separates away, as we can see, this maneuver here is only going to take, or is going to take the rest of this ascent stage that we are using to get into orbit. And then we're going to move on just to use a slight amount of fuel in this. Most of the fuel will be conserved for the major plane change burn and the arrival at Venus. Now, it is worth noting that we are currently the only ones on the planet focused on heading to Venus right now. And this may be because we are the only ones with the funding, but quite frankly, it's because this lining up for home and transfer is it is not ideal. We are very much out of alignment when it comes to the planes between Earth and Venus, and roughly about 1/3 of the Delta V burnt getting there is just going to be used in our attempt to change the planes in roughly about 100 days from now. So that's what this stage right here is going to be doing. By the time it reaches the sphere of influence of Venus, we will then decouple the lander, and that is nothing more than this pod right here on top. It has a heat shield, it has the fairings, it has 2 small engines on it, and those in turn have roughly about 1,500 Delta V to slow its final approach to the Venusian atmosphere. So after we drop that off, this kick stage will then have a considerable amount more Delta V than it did before, then allowing it to have the necessary change in velocity to get the VRO into Venusian orbit in the place where we want it, where then it itself also has fuel reserves to position where we need it to reposition if we want to get a further outlook, if we want to try and get a better look at the poles, it will be able to do it.
So what do you think that the most important part of the lander entry is going to be? Have you taken into consideration the thermal, the aerodynamic, the less aerodynamic, and the cold?
Oh yes, these are all very big concerns for this mission. It is believed that Venus itself has maybe the most hostile environment out of any of the terrestrial planets, any of the... Oh, there's a word for it, and I'm embarrassed to have forgotten it. The Tellurians, there it is. The Tellurian planets, the ones that are below the asteroid belt. Venus definitely has, by far, the single most hostile environment that we are going to be visiting. It can range from extreme cold to extraordinary heat. It has a pressure that is far more significant than a lot of places on Earth, in Earth's oceans. And it is because of this that we did send the lander itself into the ocean, I think that was around Omelek Island. And we sent it down to roughly about 930 meters below the surface, where then we could see that the parts of the craft of the lander were then beginning to start their buckle. They were braking in some ways. What this tells us is that the lander itself is not going to be able to go down to what is considered sea level of Venus. That is why we are targeting the Ishtar Terra. The Ishtar Terra is a large mesa-ish structure that covers a lot of the northwestern portion of Venus itself. And from there, we will be able to move down in a way that is more controlled without worrying about the parts absolutely succumbing to the pressure before we have made our safe landing. If you learned anything about the USSR's Venera missions, parachutes just don't work on Venus. They move things far too slow, they can get caught in the wind, they can be hard to separate during landing, causing the craft to tumble. Now it is for this reason that, like Venera 13 and 14, we have attached air brakes to the lander itself. And this is going to allow it to catch the air, to gently, hopefully, float down like a piece of paper, like a lottery ticket on the wind in Camden County.
Oh, excellent stuff so far. A couple quick facts for people who are just tuning in. Venus, where we're heading, second planet from the sun, obviously, but it has a nighttime temperature far below what you would anticipate, negative 283 degrees Fahrenheit, and then a daytime temperature of as high as 870 degrees Fahrenheit. So a swing of basically 1,000 degrees hot to cold. Still getting some great views here. I think it's time to turn to some of the questions that we've been sent so far.
Absolutely. Throw them our way.
First, what was with the decision to launch from Japan today?
So Japan is quite high up in its latitude, which is what we needed for right now. This launch was going to happen roughly about 24 hours ago, when we had initially planned. Due to directors having time constraints because a power cord, an extension cord that was running between the rocket itself and the VAB was left unplugged. Potentially a Kerbal engineer might have tripped over it and not realized the mistake they had made. We have moved past it. Nobody has been blamed. Everybody has been yelled at. So what we are doing now, the reason we chose Japan, yes, it is high up, it is in a good inclination to where we can aim somewhat downwards as we leave the sphere of influence of Earth. We are trying to head kind of anti-normal, retrograde of the positioning of Earth around the Sun. And this will allow us to get a better change into the plane of Venus, along with speeding up towards the Sun to where it is going to be. There could have been other points in the Northern Hemisphere we could have chosen, but Japan itself was right there, just having passed its sunrise, and that was necessary for us to be on this side of the planet, going downwards towards the other side. All in all, there's some arbitrary ways we come up with these launch. There's very strict ways we come up with them. This happened to be kind of smack dab in the middle of those two.
Excellent. Excellent stuff. Now we're about to hit T plus 40 minutes to launch. Everything looking good so far. Continuing to coast. Where would you say we're above right now?
Oh, let's take a look. Go to our good old ScanSat. We are still drifting in the South Pacific Ocean, far below North America, still west of South America. I think we're far too south to be around the Galapagos.
But we should be able to see a nice view of the Andes here shortly.
Absolutely, yeah. We are way far south of the Galapagos, I believe. Yeah, just flying over the Pacific Ocean. We do like to launch in and around the Pacific Ocean because it is a nice, large, soft spot for things to fall and crash and be recovered from.
Especially the Staghorn booster. We definitely like having the Staghorn booster recovered. So, on to the next question. Looking here. How long... Well, there goes that one. So, looking here, is this the same launch vehicle as Polyphemus? And what were your considerations and the missions you've learned so far as to how to design this mission?
Okay, so a couple of questions. Yes, this was the craft that this was the booster vehicle that we used for Polyphemus. We currently are using 2 booster vehicles for CAPS. Our booster vehicles are strictly run by CAPS because it does take both the agencies, SPES and CASA, to be able to make these launches happen. The smaller of the 2 right now is the Mule 5, which has 5 engines below it and is set up for rather large payloads. It was built for the construction of the collaborative space station, but when it came to launching much more cumbersome craft that we have been designing lately, we had to switch over to the Staghorn, which is roughly about 72% bigger than the Mule itself. The Staghorn has 6 engines. As we saw, they shut off in pairs, and it is the absolute star of the show right now. We have been using it for quite a few different heavy launches. We've been using it for certain tests that we wanted to see how light loads would react on it. And currently it is tracked to be what we are going to be using to go to Mars. There is some talk of an even larger booster being created. I can confirm that between CASA and SPES, there is nothing else that has passed anything but the hypothesis stage.
That is, yeah.
It would be quite the undergoing to even test this. It would be absolutely staggering to even fund the testing, let alone fund one of them being sent. But it is known that we will need in excess of Delta V to get to Jupiter later this year in October.
CASA scientists actively working on a means to sew 6 Staghorns together with space thread.
We are going to use the mules as side boosters for the Staghorn.
Anywho, the hypotheticals will continue until morale improves. On to the next question. It looks like here.
That both parts of that question? There was the Staghorn.
Oh, and what did you learn in designing this mission from the previous real-time missions?
Yes. I did have an answer for that. The biggest one, make damn well sure that we design in enough Delta V for what we're doing. The Dahlia Lysianthus mission, which is on its way to Vesta currently, while a somewhat secret mission, did suffer from a moment where we realized there was not going to be enough Delta V, and we had to send up a specialized kick stage that was designed with a claw to clamp directly onto the bell of the Lysianthus kick stage itself. So we made sure that was not going to happen. Because we are launching this directly at the transfer window we need, there was not really any time for hanging around for a few days while we come up with a solution, waiting another couple days for the orbits to line up to make a direct intercept to it and actually fix it. This is something that had to happen well on the first try. So we are very happy that the craft itself did not explode. That would have put maybe a 2 or 3 day break on the mission as we put together all of the spare parts as fast as we can, which we are glad we did not have to do.
Another question, will this be the fastest object in the solar system? I know that we previously had a probe launch at 45 to 60 kilometers per second. How fast will this one be going by the time it finally reaches Venus?
I have not actually checked that. I do know that currently moving right now, Gale Weaver, the Neptune probe, is moving faster than anything else we have created, even though it is slowing down as it moves away from the sun, as things tend to do. This will be going considerably faster than anything that we've ever sent out that speeds up by itself. Everything we've sent out as an interplanetary mission has indeed slowed down after we are done making the maneuvers for getting them to their intercept. This one will be speeding up. It will be falling towards the gravity well of the sun, and this does indeed make it move quite fast, and that is why it has an excess of delta V in both the lander and the kick stage to really slow itself down before we actually get there. Most importantly for the lander, because we don't want it to slam into a pillow too hard. We all know that a soft pillowy environment is nice, but during a pillow fight, it can have quite a bit of heft if moving fast.
It's a great way to put it, Deadbeat. Much appreciated for the very visual metaphor there. I liked it.
Yes, it's for the layman.
So looking now, we're at T plus 47 minutes, 50 seconds, about to go into the nighttime of Earth. The first lunar, or I should say the first solar night for our probe here. The next question I'm seeing here are there any orbital camels aboard? I can say confidently no orbital camels aboard this probe here today, nor fish, nor orbital horses, nor anything of the like. Fortunately, we have, in order to try and preserve the biological structure of Venus as it stands right now, and make sure that we don't run into any problems with our Venusian botany department, if you would like, we've decided to not include any living objects, flora or fauna, even bacterial, prevented wherever possible, on board this probe here. The approximate transit time estimated for this probe right now, about 128 days. We also have another question. Will it be a flyby, orbit, or a landing of Venus? Fortunately, it will be two of those. It will be an orbit, which will be the lower half of the probe. It will detach and move into an orbit around the planet, and the upper half of the probe inside the heat capsule there, that would be on the bottom left of the screen looking at the current rocket view, that will be going into the atmosphere and attempting to land. Where the mouse is indicating for us. So it will actually be both profiles of the mission simultaneously. That's one of the reasons we have the booster, the second stage, and the kick stage in order to do that orbital maneuvering. That's what's going to give us enough oomph, so to speak, in order to make it all the way to Venus. Now, T plus 50 minutes since launch. Already 50 minutes. Everything looks great. Wonderful views from the camera. Successful detachment from the booster, which was recovered. We can see healthy probes. All of them currently looking good. with that, I think we'll go ahead and answer one last question, which is, what is the plan for the Jupiter mission?
So the Jupiter mission, we do kind of want to launch a two-part mission. There's so much there. Jupiter itself is really a gem of a planet. How many different targets, things to intercept, so much to find out while we fly by it. We kind of feel remiss just sending but one probe this time around. I do think that some sort of lander will be designed. We do know that we're going to be trying to create a small probe that will stay at a certain point in an orbit, in a high orbit around Jupiter, just to keep those views for the 24/7 server, or for the 24/7 stream. But beyond that, a lot of things are still only in the discussion phase. No craft has been built yet. It is possible with these new drop forged parts created by our submarine specialist Etwan Kerdlu, formerly known as the greatest linotype engineer of Kerbal kind, has created for us these drop forged pressure resistant parts. We don't know how he did it. We asked him several times, how does them being drop forged have anything to do with it? And he simply scoffs and says, kids.
The science made capable by Etwan Kerdlu's drop forged pressure resistant parts is astonishing, and I do believe we'll end up having a camera centric vessel as well as a non-camera centric vessel, both going at approximately the same time. As we've already mentioned, there's a yet unnamed, unannounced mission currently in the works using these drop forged pressure parts. So a lot is still on the horizon. And now T plus 53 minutes. I think that will be the end of our question and answer session. Deadbeat, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for being our PR director, and thank you for everybody who is here. Thank you for the taxpayers, and we will be seeing you on the flip side when it comes time to make this.
We're going to go ahead and turn up the music and turn down the commentary for a little bit as we begin our nighttime orbital drift, and everyone here can enjoy the music and the views of sunset. Current estimated time to the maneuver, looking at just about 51 minutes? 51 minutes, 18 seconds. And if you're tuned in and still watching, thank you for joining us. You're watching Kerbal Real Time. We're preparing for a maneuver in approximately 17 and a half minutes. Planning to leave the sphere of influence of Earth and begin our injection burn towards Venus. And if you're just tuning in, Kerbal Real-Time, now 1 hour, 33 minutes, 17 seconds since launch. We are waiting here any minute now for orbital sunrise. A maneuver planned in about 11.5 minutes. And after that, we'll say our goodbyes, and that will be the end of coverage for today. But you can follow along with the probe as it continues to drift at KerbalRealtime.com. And we have orbital sunrise. This is the last sunrise around Earth for the Viridian 1 probe. Just down there on the surface below, it is nighttime, but we are just about to pass over the Strait of Hormuz, just below us right there. Currently down on the bottom right corner of your screen. Hopefully here, pulling up the final view. This will be our last view of ScanSat around Earth. You can see here over Middle East, Saudi Arabia. Heading towards the Strait of Hormuz. Overall, everything looking good. Currently, just passing 50 minutes into the day. That would be UTC time on July 31st. Been flying for 1 hour and 36 minutes now, and we're preparing for our trans-Venusian injection burn here in about 9 minutes. Be a good time to check if we have any feedback from Mission Control Cat. Yes, Mission Control Cat, any other thoughts today? Thank you. A great comment, as always. Just great views here. Now just approaching 7 minutes until that maneuver. Remember, this will use up the remainder of the second stage here, as well as a portion of that thumper kick stage, which has the solar panels attached. You can see that there, near the center of your screen. So far, a great orbital sunrise. Beautiful views below. I mean, just spectacular today. overall, everything has gone smoothly. The Staghorn 6 booster was recovered earlier, as well as the second stage has performed nominally. Orbital coast has gone well. No issues on either of the two probes up top, the lander, Viridian 1, or the Venusian Reconnaissance Orbiter, the VRO. Both of them looking good as well. And as we prepare for the last maneuver here in just about 6 minutes, a friendly reminder that you can find updates on these missions on our website, KerbalRealtime.com, and on our Discord server. And T-minus 3.5 minutes has come and gone. Currently waiting for that final maneuver. We can see the alignment taking place here from the flight controller and the flight director. Grateful Deadbeat, piloting from mission control. All looking good so far. So we see that final orientation. Now locked into the maneuver position. We're about to pass over the northwest side of the Himalayas, on the border between India and the Himalayas, currently on the Indian side of the subcontinent. So far, everything looking good. As we get the final correct time from the mission controllers. Burn should be starting here in about 1 minute. And with that, we will fade out the maneuver timer. fun little factoid here. Directly to our south in this region would be everyone's favorite tall mountain, Mount Everest. Of course, lies on the border between Nepal and China near Bhutan and Bangladesh. And there we have engine ignition. We can see that burn underway now. 3,100 meters per second going to be burnt. The majority of that coming from the existing second stage. The remainder of it coming from the Thumper kick stage. That's the fuel tank sandwiched in between those donut external tanks there. So far, everything looking good on board. And now we're about to see second engine cutoff. We have Seco. Now waiting on probe separation. And we have ignition. Now up to full throttle. Just over 1 minute left of burn. Successful stage separation. And ignition of the Thumper kick stage, now pushing this craft out of the sphere of influence of Earth. About halfway through that remaining burn. Just about 25 seconds left. Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. We can see that throttle cut off. And we have a successful transfer of the Viridian 1 probe and the VRO, Venus Reconnaissance Orbiter, out away from Earth as we can begin to watch it drift here. T plus 1 hour and 47 minutes. What we have left there on the screen after a successful mission so far, on the top in the heat capsule, the Viridian 1 probe, there in the center with the metallic dumpling tanks, the reconnaissance orbiter, and on the bottom there, surrounded by 2 orange reflective donut tanks, that is the Thumper kick stage. The 3 of those together now on their way towards Venus in our very first ever interplanetary mission. This will be our first to arrive of all of the launches so far. Approximately 128 days estimated until SOI crossing at Venus. For those of you who have stuck along so far, it's been about an hour and 50 minutes, almost 2 hours of continuing to cheer along this plucky little probe as it valiantly veers towards Venus. our next maneuver not occurring for multiple months, by the looks of it. "96 days, 5 hours, and 28 minutes approximately until the next maneuver here. And fortunately for everyone in chat, we will not be leaving it open for the entirety of that time." There's our approximate positioning, now estimated based on the current orbital parameters of where we will arrive at Venus. There is a perfect view right there of Venus, where we're heading. You can see that now, that glow right there. That is where we're off to today. I don't know if we could make a more poignant final shot to leave you all with as we prepare for the Viridian 1 and the VRO to make their long voyage now for the next 3 months. There will, of course, be an update sometime in October, November, when we make that maneuver for final positioning and timing, but it's looking like there will be an arrival at Venus for both the probe and the orbiter in approximately 130 days. If you've followed along with us this far, it's our great pleasure to produce these videos for you all and to have you follow along with our missions. If you need more information, please check out our website, KerbalRealtime.com, where you can look at the upcoming mission calendar and a live map view of all of these craft, including drawn models for them and information about our Kerbonauts, the mission profiles, and some pictures and media from the previously run missions. Also, check out the channel for any previously released launch videos that will give you some information about the current situation in the server, where things stand, and where they're going. I have been Admiral Radish, and your flight director today was Grateful Deadbeat. Thank you all for joining us, and have a pleasant evening.